Welcome to the PHNX tailgate, presented by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's favorite sportsbook app. I am Saul Bookman. I am joined here by the one, the only Johnny Venerable. It is just us two today for the first time of the season. It's fitting that we wrap up the season today.
Yes, we kick Shane's ass to the curb, and we're going to finish the season in style. We don't know where he is, and frankly, we don't care. Let's do this.
It doesn't even matter. Let's run that intro.
Shane Diefenbach, Little Minds Preschool, Spelling Bee champion.
Johnny Venerable, Chittix Junior High School, Normal, Illinois.
Saul Bookman, Mare Elementary School. Go Wildcats.
They go Wildcats. It's fitting that Shane let it off and that he's not here today because Black Monday is upon us, and I feel like my man's about to experience some Black Monday. Actually, he's probably going to have a really great Monday, to be honest, because he's going to the national championship, I do believe.
He is.
Fuck him.
Yeah, in all seriousness, he gets to enjoy it. We get to enjoy what I think is going to be a robust Black Monday that, thankfully, for the first time in a while, is not going to include speculation about a certain Arizona Cardinal head coach. But instead, we're going to play a little game at the top of PHNX Tailgate about who Saul and I believe are safe, re-signed, retained, or outright fired. Leah, let's kick things off, shall we?
Let's do it.
Oh, man. Look at these fancy graphics. Thank you so much, Leah. All right. All right, Saul. Fired or retained?
I think that's it for the Mike Zimmer era in Minnesota. He had a nice little run. It was fueled by mediocrity, and that's largely because of Kirk Cousins. I don't believe Kirk Cousins will be the Vikings quarterback next year either. So I would say that he would be fired as of tomorrow.
You know, it's funny. They got to the NFC title game once upon a time with Case Keenum, and it really thought, or at least I thought, oh, Mike Zimmer's a big-time head coach. And they have gotten progressively more mediocre, even with a quote-unquote quarterback upgrade with Kirk Cousins. So I'm with you. I think Zimmer, and we should preface all this by saying we don't root for people to get fired, but these are multi-millionaires with guaranteed contracts, 8 figures in cases. So, yeah, Mike, goodbye. He could retire. He could be a DC somewhere, but he's not going to be the Vikings head coach.
1,000,000%. I agree.
All right, next up, Matt Rule. Look at that.
Oh, man. Okay, so 2 things on Matt Rule. Number one, I saw a tweet this morning by Adam Schefter talking about how the Carolina Panthers are going to show extreme interest in it makes me sick to say this, but Jay Gruden and Bill O'Brien as their offensive coordinators. And I understand what Bill O'Brien has done at Alabama. He's done a really good job as their offensive coordinator, but it seems like everybody does a great job as the offensive coordinator at Alabama, and that's probably because of Nick Saban. And then I'm just, I'll say it like this, and I'm not trying to go on a tangent by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm kind of tired of recycled coaches getting more and more opportunities, despite the fact that they have struggled as a head coach or they've struggled at certain times. I understand there's specialties that people might excel at a little bit more than others, but these guys got head coaching gigs. And when you're talking about one of the best offenses in the league in Kansas City and Eric Bieniemy can't get a head coaching job, I think it's complete trash. And I'm kind of tired of this whole, like, it's almost like the, what they call like the brotherhood or the inner circle of the NFL getting more and more opportunities when, there's plenty of black head coaches out there that don't and are fully qualified. It's kind of trash.
It is.
So I think he's going to keep his job. I think he's gonna
which is ridiculous. Wasn't the point of the hiring Matt Rule the fact that he was going to have this innovative offense that scored 1 million points at the University of Baylor, and now we're making news on a Sunday of who he's going to bring in as his offensive coordinator? He fired Joe Brady, who was supposed to be like the wonder kid from LSU. I think Matt Rule is not a very good NFL coach. I think he'd be wise to look at the college landscape with a plethora of openings. So while I think they're going to retain him, if they can't find a quarterback, I think they should blow it up this offseason, and Rule should head for greener pastures.
And that's the key here, though, right? So far, we have seen a couple of head coaches on our screen. One already got let go today. And I think the theme here is if you don't have a good quarterback, you're not a good coach. That's just how it is.
Yep. Absolutely. And that brings us to our third coach who does have a good quarterback, but for how much longer we'll see. Pete Carroll in Seattle. Saul, fired or retained?
This is a tough one. I know there's a lot of chatter about Pete Carroll possibly getting the boot or also even possibly retiring. I don't know, man. I love Pete Carroll as a coach. I really do. I think if he was the Arizona Cardinals coach for the last decade, I would say that we were very fortunate to have him. And yes, it does help when you have Russell Wilson, cover up a lot of the offensive woes that you have. But man, I'm going to say Pete's time gets extended by another year at least, just to see what he could do in the free market without Russell Wilson, because I'm almost 100% certain Russell Wilson isn't coming back unless they do make a change.
Yeah. I read this morning that Pete Carroll has like maybe $50 million guaranteed left in a contract extension. And so to part ways off of that, I also think Seattle has no direction as it relates to their personnel. They let Pete wildly trade for Jamal Adams. They don't have future picks. So if you get rid of Pete Carroll, like, who's your visionary, right? You'd have to basically start from scratch. And as much as I want Russell Wilson gone, I want them to retain Pete Carroll because I think that basically starts the rebuild process. I'm going to say we've gotten some fool's gold from Seattle here at the end of the season. They scored 50 points last week against the Lions. If they win today, I could definitely see them saying, we're just going to run it back. We lost Russell for a few games. He had the finger. We feel like we can be competitive next year. I hope that doesn't happen, but I think he's retained.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Next up, my Chicago homeland, Mr. Matt Nagy. Before we rip him to shreds, Saul, and I don't think he's a coach. He has made the playoffs twice, so he's got that going for him. And I think, to your point that you just made about the Bill O'Briens of the world and the retained head coaches, the recycled head coaches, I should say, Nagy's going to fall into that category, because what he's going to do if he gets fired, he's going to slide right back into that Andy circle of trust and rebuild his image. And in 3 to 5 years, it's going to be, Matt Nagy. Remember Matt Nagy had success in Chicago? Matt Nagy. I think he's fired. I think he's a fraud. I'm not buying it at all. That division's awful. If he was in a competent division, he would have been fired years ago.
To steal a Chris Rock quote, to be a head coach in the NFL, the sky's the limit. To be the head coach at Chicago, the limit's the sky. And so Matt Nagy needs to get fired, first of all. He has not done a very good job. The most important thing here is player development, and he has not been able to develop quarterbacks the way people thought he was with Mitchell Trubisky. And then moving on to, obviously, you had the Red Rider, or whatever his damn name is, the Red Rifle, and then followed up with Justin Fields. Listen, the plan is what bothers me the most. It felt like there was no plan for Justin Fields from the beginning of the season to now. They tried to dabble with even making it a 2-quarterback system from time to time, and it just never made sense what they were doing with Justin Fields. Obviously, Justin Fields got hurt a couple times, so he hasn't been able to see as much action as he'd like. But I always felt like that organization was so discombobulated, and that's largely in part because of Matt Nagy's lack of control of what's going on. You need to have a plan. Like that's just something when you come into an organization, you need to have a well thought out plan. And whether or not things, go awry within that plan, okay, you got to account for those, but you have to have a plan. At least something people can point to and see, I see what he's trying to do. You know what I'm saying? But right now you look at the Bears, you're like, I don't know what the hell they're trying to do at all. So for that reason, I would say Matt Nagy is absolutely on his way out.
Yeah. I don't think he's a terrible coach. I think he's really hurt himself in press conferences, how he fumbled through Justin Fields' development, because you could make an argument, had he handled that piece right this season only, and they had some momentum, he could be retained. But I think, remember that whole debauchery of not refusing to even let Fields compete for the job. And then it took all but, 2 games before they pulled the plug. The optics on that were so bad. I think people think he's a clown anyway. So he'll go back and he'll be an OC somewhere. But yeah, he won't be the Bears head coach tomorrow. I think Bieniemy would be a great fit in Chicago. I hope that Justin Fields lands with somebody competent. I'm a huge Fields fan.
Listen, Eric Bieniemy deserves a shot. Whether you believe in him or not, he deserves a shot. I mean, all these other yahoos have gotten a shot, and they haven't done shit. You know what I mean? Like Matt Rule and Cliff Kingsbury, obviously, like they haven't done anything in the head coaching ranks in the NFL, and they got head coaching jobs right off the bat. Like, and I know Cliff has done a good job this year, and I don't think that was necessarily a bad hire. But you had Eric Bieniemy out there who is literally run the offensive coordinator for one of the best offenses in the league. And if you think it's that easy, I am here to tell you it's not. Like, play calling is an art. And so to be able to execute a lot of those things, and then on top of that, learn from Andy Reid, I just don't understand why all these other dudes are getting shots, but Eric Bieniemy he must be a horrible interview.
Yeah, and if your pushback is, well, Andy Reid's the de facto offensive guy. I mean, Matt Nagy was the offensive coordinator before he got the Bears job in Kansas City. So same scenario. All right, next up, kind of a curveball, Saul. Could be I don't think it's going to be a one and done, but I wanted to pose it anyway. Robert Saleh, 4-12 this year with the Jets. Their defense, which is his calling card as a defensive coordinator with the San Francisco 49ers, has been awful. They've had a rotation at quarterback, and that's not really on him. But I just feel like this year he's looked completely in over his head. There isn't too many positives that have come from this one-year regime. Could we see another Steve Wilks-esque type of, fallout with Robert Saleh and the New York Jets?
Again, do you have a plan? That's the thing. And I will say this for Robert Saleh. He didn't fuck around. Like, he started off with Zach Wilson as the starting quarterback, and he said, let's ride and let's see how it goes. And then he got hurt and he got bounced, and Zach Wilson had a rough go of it a couple times. But he did show, flashes here and there. And listen, again, the quarterback thing is such a huge deal. Like you look at Urban Meyer, who didn't even last a year at Jacksonville, and his lack of really creativity when it comes to the offensive side of the ball with Trevor Lawrence. And you look at Trevor Lawrence and you're like, Jesus, like, is this kid who we thought he was? You know what I mean? But I believe he is. He needs somebody that knows what the hell they're doing on the offensive side of the ball. And so with Robert Saleh, I think it's much of the same. It's hard. It's hard when you have two sides of the ball that are equally as bad. And I know your calling card is defense, but shit, man, like, if the defense is on the field for 45 minutes a game, like, bro, we ain't doing anything against these teams. Like, they're gonna put up points. You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to fault him for that. I would say he should get at least another year. It's the New York Jets. Who the hell are they going to try and bring in anyway? Like, it's a dumpster fire every single year. Give my man another shot. I like his enthusiasm. It's from the optics and from the outside looking in, it looks like the players are still playing very hard for him. So, and I think that speaks more volumes than you remember when Steve Wilks was here. Dudes halfway through the season were like, man, F this dude. Like, I'm not even trying to hear it.
And worse.
Yeah, it was awful. The body language, the appeal, like, he needed to go. I don't feel that way about Robert Saleh.
Yeah, Robert Saleh, you made a great point when you talk about it's hard to take over a program and both sides of the ball basically need a gut job. You got to remake both. Yeah. And to me, it's why I get so much hesitation unless you're, historically great coach and you've had success before about hiring a defensive coach as my head coach. And I really do think, we can say hindsight 2020 now, but the Cardinals, I believe, did it right. They went out, they got an offensive coach to mold their young quarterback, which is what I believe the Jets should have done. And then they kind of had Vance Joseph fall in their lap a little bit of a guy who's had head coaching experience that could own the defensive side. To me, if the Jets want to replicate that, they got to go out and find somebody who's more than competent as an offensive coordinator. The problem with that is, like, Cliff Kingsbury is never getting hired away because he's your head coach. The problem with this is if somebody taps into Zach Wilson's potential as an OC, he's going to get a head job somewhere. So that always just gives me pause to the defensive guys. And it leads us into, Saul, the first official firing, but we wanted to put it up anyway. Vic Fangio of the Denver Broncos has been let go. Man, yesterday, I'm not sure if you caught that game last night, Saul. It just kind of perfectly encapsulated Vic's time as the Bronco head coach. Late in that game, they're down 7. They're kicking field goals against Patrick Mahomes down 7 with like 6 minutes remaining. I'm just like, dude, what? He's just not meant to be a head coach.
Yeah. I didn't need to catch the game. All you had to do was catch the last 5 minutes of that game. And when you see third down, and Drew Lock misses that pass over the left-hand side, even though the play before he had Judy on a juke route going fade on the right-hand side, wide open. My man Drew Lock is part of the problem. Like, they don't have a quarterback. That's all I needed to see. And then you're right. I'm like, dude, bro, you're not going to the playoffs. You're 7-9 on the season. What the fuck are you doing kicking a field goal? Go for it. Have some marbles about you, buddy. Like, and that right there is a perfect example of why coordinators don't always make the best coaches. And this guy, he was in the league for a long time, Vic Fangio. He's been in the league for a while. He never got a head coaching job. Well, this is probably why.
This is it. And I think he'll be a one and done. And it's unfortunate, thinking back to 3 years ago, this was a hire that a lot of people were high on. The stark contrast of the Kingsbury situation. But the common denominator is, the Cardinals had the top pick that year. They were able to secure Kyler Murray. Who knows what Cliff does without a quarterback? And it's funny, Fangio had a kind of a pretty telling bite yesterday. And when asked what differentiates the Broncos from the rest of the division, which could see, 2 teams in the playoffs, all 3 are in contention down the stretch here. And he said the quarterbacks. They have first-class quarterbacks, basically saying the Broncos do not, which isn't news to anybody. So
he's not wrong.
Fangio, fast forward a month from now, he's not. He's going to be the highest paid defensive coordinator in the league, and he'll be, if he wants to be, he'll be just fine. But Denver needs to go, and
that defense is good. Like that's a good defense. The counterpoint to Robert Saleh, right, is that Vic Fangio made the most of this team because of the defense, right? And Teddy Bridgewater helped a little bit too, just being a good game manager. But you need, in that division with 3 quarterbacks that could all be in the Pro Bowl, like, you need a quarterback. You just need a quarterback. And that defense can only take you so far. This isn't like, this isn't, what was it, 2015, 14, when they had Peyton, and that defense was just insane and shut down everybody. That defense isn't quite to that level, but they are a serviceable defense. They're very good. They kept them in a lot of games. It's just the offense just is piss poor, and that's why he's probably going to go.
I don't want to pile on here with our DMVR brothers and sisters, but I just can't
they'll be all right. Were ready for it.
Think back to the draft last year when they took a corner. Patrick Surtain's a great player, and they had multiple quarterbacks, including Fields and Mac Jones, sitting there. And the GM then comes out after the fact and says, "Well, we believe it's harder to find corners than quarterbacks." I think that set the tone for the entire season. All right, good. Well. This next one is a surprise, partially because I can't pronounce his last name. Rich Bisaccia. I want to say Biscotti. Bisaccia. Yep. Raiders, who have gone through, I would argue, the most dysfunction of any singular team in NFL history with the Henry Ruggs situation, John Gruden. They've had multiple players with DUI. This dude wins today, Saul. They're in the playoffs over the Chargers, who I think have much more talent. Do you think this guy, regardless, should be fired or retained?
Well, I don't think he should get fired. Right. I don't know if he should be the head coach, because I believe he's the interim head coach, or is he the actual head coach?
And he's the interim who I think coaches special teams.
Okay. Again,
I think that's what his calling call it was.
Being a head coach in the NFL, and I know a lot of, Cliff Kingsbury likes to call his own plays. Cool. But being a head coach in the NFL is you basically have to be the best manager out there, right? You have to understand the game. You have to understand the situations. That's why people get so frustrated with Cliff Kingsbury. It's like, bro, you're focused so much. It's sometimes it's hard to focus on the offensive play calling and game management at the same time when you're trying to think, because you got to think 2 or 3 steps ahead of the defense. And then, things slip by, and I think that's what catches Cliff Kingsbury. The good ones can do that, right? I think Bill Belichick is an example of that. Bill Belichick is probably the best game manager of all time. That's why he's one of the best coaches of all time, because he lets his guys do what they got to do. He puts his imprint on both sides of the ball, and then he allows them to coach, and then he manages the game, how it's going. Like that's what a good coach does. So this guy being a special teams coach, it doesn't matter to me. Can he manage the game? And so far, he's done a very good job of it. I mean, considering all the distractions that they've had, and you lost one of your premium receivers in Henry Ruggs, to be able to get through all that, keep this team together, because we all know that's easy for the Raiders to fall apart amongst this dysfunction, and they're on the cusp of the playoffs. That says a lot about him. So if they retained him, I would be happy for the guy. But the Raiders, they always are looking for that next best thing, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work out. So are they going to cut their nose off to spite their face? I don't know.
That's exactly where I was thinking. They can't help themselves. They've been connected to Jim Harbaugh even before he went to Michigan. I think that's where he would have ended up. You just went through that with John Gruden, and I'm not saying they're similar personalities, similar guys, but like maybe what you need, less is more in terms of the personality of your head coach. And if your players respond to this coach, even if you guys don't win today and it's a hard-fought game, I mean, Saul, their number one receiver right now is Hunter Renfrow, who's the NFL equivalent of me, right? He's out there running routes and winning games at Indianapolis. We're not sure if Darren Waller is going to play. Obviously, Ruggs is out. Jacobs has been banged up. I think 100% he should be retained if they get in. If they get into the playoffs with this team, even with Derek Carr having a good season, I think he should be retained. And outside of being blown out, my biggest thing is who is going to have interest in this job, because I could see Mark Davis saying, okay, we don't have a lot of candidates. We're just going to give it to Rich. But if he can get a meeting with Jim Harbaugh, I think that's where he'd be most inclined to go. But I would ride it out with Rich, because I think what they've done over the course of the last quarter of the season has been really impressive.
Absolutely. Is that all you got?
All right, this next one's my favorite. I got two more. I got 2 more, my man. There's a lot.
All right, let's go. All right.
This is my favorite because I believe this is the single biggest fraud right now in the NFL. now that Urban Meyer is gone, Joe Judge, who has claimed that players that went to other teams last year for more money or this year have been calling him, saying they want to come back to the Giants because of the culture that they have, a culture that I think has imploded in front of the Mara's fat faces. This is a franchise that has not had an above 500 season in 5 years. They're the only team in the NFL that's got 5 losing seasons consecutively in that span. So I do think that Joe Judge will be fired. I think it's low key. I hate the guy who thinks he's smarter than the room. That's why I love Cliff Kingsbury. I think he's incredibly humble, right? If he screws up, he takes 100% ownership. This guy's always like deflecting, trying to lay blame on other people. The Giants are an old, now I believe, poverty franchise. They can't get the quarterback situation right. Gettleman's already gone. If I'm a GM candidate and they retain Joe Judge, there's no way I'm touching this toxic place. Absolutely not.
I 1000% agree. The best thing about the Maras is Kate Mara. I mean, let's be honest. Like, I don't know if you guys know who Kate Mara is.
Is she related to that family?
Yeah, she's from that family tree. Yeah, for sure. I think she's I think she's the grandchild of whatever his face is. Yeah. John. So
that I did not know. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. A little nugget there for you. Joe Judge. I still can't believe that guy has a job. Like, he should have been gone like 2005. Like, I don't get it. He must have the best.
Got the Belichick connection, man.
So he must have the best spin game in the world. Like, he just, like, hey man, you just stepped in shit. No, I didn't. Like, what? Yeah, it's literally on your shoe. No, that's mud from like, no, that it's just shit. You know what I mean? So, Joe Judge, he needs to go. Absolutely, but he won't. He won't.
You don't think so? You think he'll
I think he's going to keep his job. I think he's going to keep his job.
No way.
Because the New York Giants, much like the Bears, the New York Giants love mediocrity. They just love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hilarious because it's a franchise that I think sticks his nose up at a lot of people, and they are the laughingstock in the NFL. I hope he's fired because I think actually, you know, I hope he's retained for the continued headlines that we'll get all throughout the next calendar year. But lastly, this one's a layup. I wanted to put it up anyway because Darrell Bevell, the Jaguars are today. The fan base is hosting the Indianapolis Colts, Saul, and it's Clown Day as mentioned by the fans. So the fans are showing up to the Jaguar game today dressed in clown attire, clown makeup.
Are you serious?
And yes, and the title sponsor of today's game, some local business, is suing the Jaguars to pull out of this game because they spent hundreds and thousands of dollars to be able to market this game, and it's now the default clown game, the unofficial clown game. So if you tune into this game, they will have fans in clown makeup. Colts haven't won there, by the way, since 2014. Darrell Bevell, he's probably going to get fired. Who even wants the Jaguar job?
Dude, listen, there's so many things about the Jacksonville Jaguars that just don't make sense to me. Number one, why Jacksonville? Like, why Jacksonville? Why does Jacksonville have an NFL franchise? I never understood that from day one. I was like, what? Carolina and Jacksonville? Like, there's already two other teams in Florida. What the hell do you need the Jaguars for? Like, the Jaguars need to move. They need to get as far away from Florida as possible. There's so many other cities that are deserving. You can move them to Kentucky. You can move them to, Salt Lake City, like anywhere but Jacksonville.
Utah would be great.
Yeah, Utah would be great. I would never want to go because Salt Lake City is like the worst place in the world. But yeah, I mean, it'd be fantastic. But yeah, I just don't understand this whole thing about Jacksonville. Their whole culture just reeks to me. Like they have these flashes in the pan every now and then where they made an AFC championship run and almost damn near beat the Patriots a couple years ago. And then it just has fallen off so fast since then. I don't understand what's going on over there. Man, Bevell needs to go, obviously. But
would you demand a trade if you were Trevor Lawrence this offseason?
I mean, that's a little too early to do that. It's a little too early to do that.
He's having one of the worst rookie seasons of recent memory.
I know. I just don't
heralded as the next to Andrew Luck, and he's going to have his third head coach in a season.
I just don't believe he's that. Well, first of all, I don't think he's that bad. Like he's not as bad as his stats would indicate, right? And I feel like you set him up for failure by giving him a college head coach. And I don't care how you want to spin it. Urban Meyer is a bum. He's a bum. He's an absolute bum. He's a fucking snake oil salesman, is what he is. Like he was able to befuddle a lot of kids to going to Ohio State and do what he wanted them to do. And he had a lot of quality coaches underneath him, and he took a lot of credit. And then he gets to the NFL and he gets his shit kicked in, and he realizes he's not that good of a coach. He never was, never has been. I don't care about his national championships. I've always felt like Urban Meyer has been one of the biggest frauds of all time. And his character speaks to that as well. Like he's just a piece of crap through and through. Anyway, they need to get a franchise changer. They need to get somebody, a head coach in there that has a strong sense of what it takes to build a franchise, from top to bottom. I don't know what coaches are out there that have that kind of thing, but you know what I would do, honestly? Like I would pony up as much money as I possibly could, and I would throw it at Mike Tomlin. I would throw it at Mike Tomlin, and I would buy whatever I needed to do to get that guy over there, to change the culture, to change the mood, to change the environment, to get the fan base reinvigorated. You need to do that because Mike Tomlin's a guy that I feel like is a culture changer. He gets it. He understands it. And I know people in Pittsburgh, are upset from time to time that this guy, they've been 500 or a little bit above 500 for, relative to the last 5-6 years, but they are still a good franchise. Like they still make deep runs into the playoffs. They still go, like they have a ring under him. Like he understands, and the best thing for an owner in the NFL is to always sell the fan base on this could be the year. And Mike Tomlin, for whatever you want to say about him, every year could be the year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's what you need to sell to the fan base. when you have a fan base like Jacksonville, who basically every single year they start the season, they're like, it's like the Cleveland Indians in Major League, where they're like, all right, how many fucking losses are we going to have this year? You know what I mean? Like, It's no fun, and you can't sell the fan base on the future. You try to do it with Trevor Lawrence. That's not working. You got to pivot, and you got to go a different direction. I think you got to throw the farm. I mean, you give Mike Tomlin the city of Jacksonville. Like, you just give it all to him, like everything.
If he wants it.
And you try to sell him on Jacksonville. That's the kind of guy that they're going to need a miracle. They're going to need a miracle because there's not another coach out there that I can think of that isn't already established that would come in and be able to change the whole dynamic of a franchise. So either they need to get a big-time head coach like Mike Tomlin, or they got to relocate this thing to a different city and just start from scratch all over again because this thing needs to be blown up.
Yeah, they're interviewing like Kellen Moore this week at Dallas. He's not going to do it. They don't have it figured out, but we do here on Pitch the Tent. Man, it could be a unfortunately bloody Black Monday tomorrow for a lot of NFL head coaches. But thankfully, Cardinals don't have to worry about that, Saul.
For sure. So a couple things before we move on to the next segment, because this was a very long segment, 30 minutes. Wow, look at that. All right, incentive day. Today's incentive day. I want you to tell me, I'm going to give you 4 different incentives. Which one is most likely to hit? AJ Green needs 75 yards to have 900 on the year and a $250,000 incentive. Packers linebacker Preston Smith needs 1 sack for a $750,000 incentive. Hassan Reddick needs 2 sacks for a $1 million incentive. And Rob Gronkowski needs 7 catches and 85 yards for a $1 million incentive. And so which one of those do you think is more likely to happen?
I'm going to just go Preston Smith. That's the easiest one. 1 sack. I believe they play the lowly Detroit Lions, do they not?
They do.
So
at home, yep.
Tim Boyle, I think that's the layup one. The next best odd, I really do think probably AJ Green in an opportunity where he and Christian Kirk both could have big days against the subpar Seattle secondary. 75 yards. He's kind of been the default number 1 receiver since Hopkins gone down from a yards perspective. So I could see that definitely happening. Our old pal Hassan Reddick here in the desert. 2 sacks is a lot to ask for. So I'll go Preston Smith with 1B being AJ Green.
It's funny you say Hassan Reddick because I do believe Hassan Reddick will come back to the Cardinals next year. But we'll talk about that another time. Okay. And then, listen, I'm going to throw a little homerism in there. The University of Arizona had a huge commit yesterday. If you didn't see the Army All-American game, Mr. Rayshawn Luke, go ahead and throw that up there, Leah. Rayshawn Luke, all-purpose back. He's got some speed, folks.
Damn.
He's got some speed. He had 2 touchdowns yesterday and committed to U of A. And that brought it up across all the boards, and even the recruiting coordinator for 24/7 was talking about how Arizona has completely shocked the country, going 1-11 on the season and has the number 2 ranked recruiting class in the Pac-12. I don't know what Jed Fish is selling, but whatever he's selling is working, and it brought me to this point. Obviously, with recruiting, you never know how it's going to go with the transfer portal and all this other stuff. Like, this is all great on paper, but until you see wins on the field, it doesn't really matter, right? But it got me to thinking, what is the best turnaround in Arizona sports history? And I'm going to give you 4 of them, and you tell me which one you think is the best turnaround in Arizona sports history. Number 1, the Suns going from 19 wins basically to the NBA Finals in the span of 3 years. Number 2, ASU football. In 1994, they were 3-8. In 1995, they were 6-5. And in 96, they were on the cusp of a national championship, go all the way to the Rose Bowl. They lost it, unfortunately, to the Ohio State Buckeyes. But had they won that game, they would have been the national champions, because that night, Florida State lost to Florida, which would have put ASU at number 1 in the country, and they would have been the default national champions. Number 3, the Cardinals. Now, I'm going to say this is a turnaround because they went 9-7. They got all the way to the Super Bowl. But when they lost to New England on the road and got obliterated by like 50 points, they basically were called the worst playoff team of all time. And then they were 2 minutes and 37 seconds away from a Super Bowl title. And then number 4, last but not least, the Arizona Wildcats women's basketball team, who, Johnny, I was there in 2015 and 16 under Nia Butts. That was the worst coached team in any sport at any time. I don't give a shit if you're talking about elementary school kids, 5-year-olds, 4-year-olds, all the way up to the pros. The worst coached team I've ever seen in my life. And Adia Barnes gets in there, turns that whole program around, and they are one shot away. They miss it by a point in the national championship. Those 4, who do you got?
Oh, man. My Cardinal fandom makes me want to lean that way, but I'm going to go a different direction. I think it's the Suns because we're living it now, the sustained success that this organization has had to go from a team that it was a perennial lottery team, top 5 to 7 picks every year, had not had a period of sustained success since Steve Nash and company were running the show here in the Valley. I would say after that run they had in the bubble where they went undefeated, they barely missed the playoffs, to now becoming the dominant team in the West and 2 wins away from winning an NBA title last year. I mean, like, the best part about this Suns run, you would think, I know Chris Paul's older. The nucleus of players that they have is built for a half-decade plus run of success that hopefully includes one or multiple NBA championships. So I want to go ahead and say I'm living in the moment because of the fact that the Cardinals were very much a flash in the pan with Kurt Warner. I respect more. A turnaround to me is you were awful. You were a joke of an organization and an operation. Now you're the best, and it's not a fluke. And I think a lot of people look at the Cardinals of 2008 and some of those other teams you mentioned as one and done, whereas this Suns team, goodness, right now they've got the best record in the NBA. Last year they had it, almost won the NBA title. They're going to be co-favorites, I think, this year with Golden State, Milwaukee. That train is not stopping anytime soon. So I'm going to go with the Suns and Monty Williams.
It's easy for me to say U of A, but I won't. I will go the opposite. I was here in Tempe. I lived in Tempe. I lived right up the street from ASU. And I went to the game right before ASU beat Nebraska 19-0. And they played North Texas at home. And they beat them, like, I think it was like something like 55 to like 17 or something like that. And I got a nice up close and personal look at Jake Plummer at the time. And I thought, this team's pretty good. They seem like they're pretty good.
Yeah.
They got their shit together. When they beat Nebraska, when you look at the ASU fan base now, right? And this is an objective opinion of the ASU fan base, right? They're very cynical because they feel like they should always be better than they are. And for legit reason. Like, they have all the tools at their disposal to be one of the premier programs in the country, yet every single year they always fall short of expectations. So when you look back at this time, and I obviously there was no Twitter at the time, so I couldn't. There's no way to feel the mood of the fan base, and I wasn't an ASU Sun Devil, so I didn't talk to other ASU Sun Devils about the program. But I know that, like, being 500 basically my entire life, that was just a thing. Like, they had those flash in the pans and go to the Rose Bowl. This time, it just felt different. And when Jake Plummer jumps into the end zone against Ohio State, and what's his name? Brent Musburger says, "You can cut the head off a snake, but he continues to live." It's like one of my favorite lines in all sports. Like, I still get goosebumps thinking about, like, that moment. Like, wow, that tremendous moment. And then Joe Germain, local product, comes down the field and steals the heart of many Sun Devil fans, and thusly steals the national championship out from under the Sun Devils, the closest I think they have come to a national championship as well. So I just feel like that turnaround was so significant, and it just made it even sweeter when Arizona won the national championship a couple months later in men's basketball, because it was like, you'll always be second tier to us.
Well, part of it too is, does it ever feel like, I know this is not what Sun Devil fans want to hear, but does it ever feel like they're going to get that close again with the dominance of the SEC and the playoff now? It just, feels like something that couldn't happen today.
Again, I just feel like it's going to take that one guy. It's going to take that one guy that's going to come in and he's going to change things around. Like, I know they thought Herm might be that guy. To me, if you go old school, it doesn't feel like it's an old man's game anymore. And I'm not
You
trying
gotta,
to be ageist.
you gotta be ahead of the curve.
I'm not trying to be ageist against Herm, but I just feel like you need some dogs out there. You know what I mean? Like Jed Fish right now is proving that, right? He's thirsty, he's hungry, he's always been wanting a head coaching job. He got his first gig and he's making the most of it, at least on the recruiting trail right now. You can't debate that.
Right.
And he might not win more than 3 games his entire career. I am fully cognizant of that. But right now on paper, you can see the effort and the fruits of his labor and the work that they're putting in as a program. So, that's good. Herm had similar success at the onset, but that was also because of its Herm, name recognition, ESPN, all that stuff. And now you see that's starting to tail off, because the results on the field aren't where they're supposed to be. This team started off 5-1 this season, Rose Bowl aspirations, hell, CFP aspirations, and it all came crashing down really fast against Utah, and they haven't been the same since. And then you have all the allegations and all this other stuff. Trust me, living through allegations as a program, not the funnest thing to do. I know because I was there with Sean Miller, had all the allegations going on, and that program hasn't recovered since until they got a new coach in Tommy Lloyd. I feel like ASU's on that path as well. We got to speed this along. All right, let's get to that next segment. Survey says, what you got for us today, Leah?
All right. I will try and keep it quick. So the topic.
You take your time.
Okay. Well, the topic today is related to the college football championship because that is tomorrow in Indianapolis. So I thought we'll just do a little college football championship trivia.
Ooh, nice.
Okay. So question 1, what year was the first college football national championship awarded?
Are we talking about just in general?
BCS or before that?
Yeah, like everything. Not, just
okay.
In general, the first ever just college championship.
I'm going to say 1934.
I think it was before that. I'll go 1920.
It was even earlier than that. It was 1869.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Who was playing in that?
Princeton and Rutgers.
Okay, at least it's two programs we know. At least it's not Tempe Normal. So that was
Do you think this is Kyler Murray in the chat right now?
Yes. Hey, Kyler.
What's up, Kai? What's up, buddy?
Good to see you last weekend, my man.
Good luck today, bud.
Just getting some tailgating in before the game today. All right, next question. Which team has the most national titles recognized by the NCAA?
In football.
Football.
Alabama.
I'm going to go Nebraska.
Wait. No. I'm actually going to say Yale.
Yep, it's Yale.
Boom!
Look at you.
Yale?
Why did you change your mind to think about
because
that?
I had to take into consideration the early days, the 1900s to the 1930s, and Yale was a dominant football program. Yeah. There was 6 teams and they were the best of 6. Yes.
Yeah, they have 18 titles.
18 national championships.
Saban's coaching to pass them, I'm sure.
I wonder if they put that up on the billboard. Their player intros, 18 national championships.
Oh yeah, at the U of A basketball.
At the U of A, yeah.
All right, next question. In which decade did Alabama not win a national title?
The 80s.
Did they win one in the 90s?
Yeah.
I'll say 90s because that would have been my guess. But Saul,
okay, well, Saul is correct once again.
I'm getting smoked.
They beat Miami at the Sugar Bowl, and their head coach was Gene Stallings. I think it was 92.
All right, next up. In what year did Alabama and Georgia meet for the first time?
Ooh. Is this oh man, I'm gonna say let's stick with 1934.
I think it's later than that. Because who knows when Georgia had a program even. I'll go 1955.
1895.
Damn.
Wow.
Damn.
Look at this. Flex all this knowledge on people tomorrow on Twitter.
I guess.
All right. Next question. Which team won the first ever matchup between Georgia and Alabama?
Georgia.
I'll go Bama.
Saul is correct once again. Saul,
Oh my
just
God.
You gotta think, like Georgia, Savannah and all the big cities around there, nobody wants to go to
The oil
Bama.
money?
Like,
That's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
That's a good thought process. All right, now we're just getting a little in the weeds. What's Alabama's state animal?
Elephant, right?
Elephant?
It's in the
Yeah,
elephant.
I would say, yeah, I think it's the elephant.
What? Like
Isn't the
their
elephant?
state animal?
Oh, their state. Well, their mascot's the elephant, but that they
No,
have
no,
no
no. Like
elephants in
the
Alabama.
state of.
That's bad. That's bad.
I thought it was an elephant for real. Like,
Yeah.
You think elephants are naturally occurring in Alabama?
no,
Yes.
I don't. But that, why would they pull that elephant out at those games? I don't understand it. But yeah, that's what I thought. Maybe that was the state animal. I'll say pig, just because it's the South.
I'll go
Johnny?
Mouse because elephants are afraid of mice.
Okay, valid guess. It's a black bear. It's a black bear. All right. What is Georgia's state animal?
Oh, that's got to be a pig.
You're so stuck on pig.
You see how
Is it
much
not
I
a
think
bulldog?
of you see how much I think of the South.
It's not a bulldog.
I'll
Johnny.
go bulldog. Okay.
I just told
so
you it's
bad
not.
at this.
Okay. it's a white-tailed deer.
What?
God. So these are all
That's
animals
fair.
that you could hit with your car on accident.
Yeah,
You're
that's
gonna
right.
you're gonna hit a black
you're-
bear with your car?
Maybe.
In
Maybe.
Have you ever been to Alabama?
These are. I've
No.
driven
Yeah.
through on my way to Florida to vacation with my family growing up, but I've never
Like, I
had a
literally
prolonged stay.
The first time, I'm not even kidding you, this is completely sidetracked and I'll make it quick. When I was in the military, I was in the honor guard and we had to go out and do a funeral in Alabama. And so we get out to this place and I shit you not, we pull up, it's like this abandoned house, but I can see the trail. So we drive our van back and I can see where the plot is where we're going to do our ceremony. I'm not kidding you. There was like 500 gravestones and they all were like not even 12 inches high because they were all like kids that had passed away in this one spot.
Oh.
And it wasn't like a kids hospital or anything like it was just like in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, this shit is creepy as hell. What
Get
is
me out
going
of the
on?
state. Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, that was
No
my
part of
first
it.
experience with Alabama. Never again.
All right. Well, we'll just wrap it there. Thanks for playing.
No, you got one
everyone.
more or no?
Okay, fine. Well, it's not trivia. It's just a question.
Yeah. Ask
Okay,
it.
fine. All right. Would you rather your school win a national title in football or basketball?
Football.
Well,
Football.
Seeing as
Football.
how we already won one in basketball, I will say football.
Football is the
Fair
cash
enough.
cow for all the other sports.
Yeah.
And so to better all the other programs, men's and women's, you want that football money. All due respect to basketball because they still drive revenue. That football national, why do you think Alabama, they have the nicest, most prestigious facilities in the country because they print money there because of Nick Saban. Got to say football.
1,000,000% football. Absolutely. I mean, isn't it ironic that you guys are we're talking about Alabama and Georgia, and I'm literally wearing a Bubba Gump shrimp hat.
That's a great hat.
Yeah, I got it when I was
great
in
hat.
Disney. Yeah. All right. Well,
All
thanks,
right.
Leah. We appreciate that very much.
Thanks, Leah.
Johnny, it's time to tap that app. Let's go, baby.
Let's
props,
do
locks,
it.
and drops. We got to fly through this right now. Give me your prop for the day.
My prop for the day, plus 1,700. Antoine Wesley, first touchdown for the Arizona Cardinals today. My man had 2 touchdowns last week. If the Cardinals get the ball first against the Seahawks today, I think the Slender Man, I feel like I want to start calling him that because he's built like a shooting guard, has opportunities one-on-one on the outside. You assume A.J. Green's going to get a lot of help by the Seahawk DBs. So Antoine Wesley, plus 1,700, first touchdown. Cards, Seahawks on the DraftKings Sportsbook app is my prop.
I got AJ Brown over 67.5 yards today with the Titans. The Titans got to play. They got to win today for that number 1 seed overall. I think they're gonna lay the wood. So yeah, I got AJ Brown. Locks for the day.
I like it.
Today, my lock for the day is Cards minus 5.5 against Seattle. The
Wow.
Cardinals, I think they're going to destroy Seattle today. They've had a long run of having poor performances at home against the Seahawks. I think that ends today. I think the Cardinals will get right all the way across the board, defensively, offensively. They'll kill Russell Wilson. They will make him want to leave the NFC West today. I'd take the Cardinals plus the money.
My lock of the day, it was -7 on Friday. You can get it -6 right now, is the New York Giants against the Washington Washington football team. Washington football team will dominate the aforementioned Joe Judge because he is an embarrassment. I could see the Giants being shut out. Did you see Joe Judge throwing shade at Ron Rivera? Ron Rivera is out for blood today. He's going to embarrass that man. I like the Washington football team, who should have a new name supposedly by next month, will destroy the Giants today. -6 is my lock of the day. And my drop, Saul, unfortunately, I got to push back. I don't want to touch this Cardinal game. -5.5. It got up to -6. I've witnessed it with my own eyes. They've been a sucky home team all year. The only win against Russell Wilson at home since 2012 for this Cardinal team was last year in overtime on Sunday Night Football. I want it to happen, right? I'm trying to will it into existence, but I could see a field goal game either way. We're going to talk about that, but that's my drop.
Yeah, my drop today is those dirty Saints, favored by 4.5 on the road against Atlanta.
Wow, okay.
There's just no way. There's just no way I'm touching that game, because that game is going to be a bloodbath. Atlanta has nothing to play for. It's Matt Ryan. It might be Matt Ryan's last hurrah. You never know. And the Falcons are at home. That's the most important thing of this. The Falcons are at home. I think it's going to be a nip and tuck affair, and I believe the Falcons will win this game. I think the Saints will go home. They'll miss out on the playoffs, and the Dirty South will be sad once again. So that is my take on that. Also, obviously we're presented by the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And right now, if you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use promo code PHNX and bet just $5 on any football team, college or pro, and you can win $200 in free bets if they're victorious. That's promo code PHNX this week at DraftKings Sportsbook. You have to be 21 and over. Arizona only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And finally, as we wrap it up, we will go into Get Off My Lawn as we preview really quickly the Seahawks versus the Cardinals. And I'll give you one key to the game today, Mr. Johnny Venerable, and it is Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones, I want to see do the same thing he did last week against the Cowboys. I want him to get his mojo. I want him to feel himself, because he might go back up against that same Cowboys team next week. But they might also have J.J. Watt, so we'll see how that goes. But the defense is the key today. You got to put Russell Wilson on his back. They've shown the propensity to be able to do that in Seattle, but at State Farm Stadium, not so much. I think today that changes.
I'll go on the flip side. They kicked too many field goals last week, that being the Cardinal offense against Dallas. They got to score touchdowns this week. The Seahawks team, I know it was against the Lions, just put up 50 points last week. Russell Wilson played probably his best game of the year. Kyler Murray, the offense, hopefully the return of James Conner with Chase Edmonds out, needs to score touchdowns. Give this fan base a sign off, if it is your last home game of the year, with something to remember. If we're sitting there in the fourth quarter and, my goodness, the LA Rams are losing to the San Francisco 49ers and the Cardinals are dicking around against a bad Seahawk team, I will be physically ill. I might vomit in the press box. But if Kyler Murray is efficient as he was last week against Dallas, that's a great sign. That's a great omen for the playoffs. I mentioned Antoine Wesley. I don't care how they do it today. They went into Seattle with Colt McCoy and James Conner and put a beat down on the Seahawks. There are no excuses today. Take care of business. Continue the good momentum you had last week in Dallas. If James Conner plays today, I like their chances exponentially more. I do have a little bit of concern. Jonathan Ward, Benjamin, the blitz pickups, they're already too pass happy for my liking anyway. So goodness, if Cliff doesn't have James and or Chase, that's scary for me, because Kyler could be thrown it 50 times. But I like the Cardinals offense to score over 30 points. And you mentioned it. The defense, to me, with J.J. Watt coming back, I think they'll be fired up. They'll be enthused. They'll build off of a strong performance last week. I do think the Cardinals win, and I think the offense is the catalyst today.
Couple playoff scenarios for you all to watch out for today. Basically, every scenario has the Cardinals finishing as the 5 seed if the Rams win today. However, if the Rams should lose, the Cardinals win, the Cardinals would become the 3 seed, and they would play San Francisco in the first round. There is a scenario where the Cardinals could win, and if the Rams lose, and the Buccaneers lose against the Carolina Panthers, the Cardinals will become the 2 seed and host Philadelphia at home. So there's a couple scenarios where that could happen. I would not look for
Matt
Tampa.
Rule.
I don't think Matt Rule will reward us today. The most likely
you schlub
scenario,
of a man, get a W.
And San Francisco has to win. Like, they have to win. So they have plenty to play for as well. So that game and all those games, the New Orleans game, the Rams San Francisco game, and the Cardinals game all kick off at 2:25. So if you have Red Zone, today is the day to watch that for sure.
Can we talk about that Niner game real fast? So Niner fans on Twitter all week have been complaining that Jimmy's going to start. Jimmy Garoppolo gives them their best chance to win today. Trey Lance is not going into LA and winning that game. Trey Lance, who was losing late to Houston at home last week. Jimmy Garoppolo is a flawed player. That's why they drafted Trey Lance. Kyle Shanahan all year has ridden with Jimmy Garoppolo. You're not suddenly, if he's healthy today, going to sit him for Trey Lance to get Trey Lance some experience. I cannot fathom, and I think their whole organization made a mistake with Trey Lance and the Jimmy situation. But like, if they're going to win today, it's because they're going to throw the football and have a run game with Elijah Mitchell. But Jimmy Garoppolo is the better of the two players here today in early January 2022.
And that is it for the PHNX tailgate. Before we go, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody out there. Leah, I can't thank you enough for getting up on your Saturday mornings and spending it with myself and Johnny and Shane. Johnny, Shane, and everybody else that contributed to the show. Derek Montilla, who has joined us from time to time. Espo came on last week. The Hamilton football team way back in like week 2.
That was awesome.
Coming on to the show. And everybody at Cheerston joining us from Cleveland at one time. Like, I can't thank you guys enough. This is the first ever series that we've done that actually has an ending until we start again next year. So until we come back next year, we appreciate you guys joining us every Sunday morning. We hope you liked it, and look for some upgrades as we head into the next football year. So, Johnny, I appreciate you, brother.
Hey, I love this show. It's one of my favorite things we've done. I can't wait to continue it next season. I've had as much fun as it seems like we've had every time we do this show. It's anytime I can do anything football related with my guys, it's not work. It's what we love to do, and hopefully that's come across in our many broadcasts. But thank you so much, Saul.
For sure. Yeah. And you can catch Johnny today later on with the PHNX Cardinals podcast. So they give you a post game from Seattle and Arizona. Johnny will be at the stadium. Cheerson and Frank will join you as well. So make sure to check that out. And hey, we got playoff football coming up next week, no matter what's happening today. So it's going to be fun. Let's buckle up and get ready for this ride. Hopefully it's a long one. To all of you out there for joining us, thank you so much. Until next time, we'll see you later.